People had it really tough back then. This meant that for married couples, they could only have sex 2 to 5 days a month.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, that's actually not far off from where I'm at.
Boy, you've been setting that. You knew that was coming. That's really funny. Huh?
Maybe they're using the Marquette method back then too, huh?
They had the strips and everything.
Yeah. The ends of marriage. So there's a section in there on the ends of marriage.
Oh, John.
The ends of marriage, according to the Catechism of Trent. Number 1, companionship.
John.
Children was second.
You've been lying to us.
Yeah. So companionship. Imagine that. Companionship was number 1.
Huh.
And if you... Welcome back, everyone. Craig and Jonah today. Episode 250.
Can't believe it.
Can't believe it. And look at this. We got notes here. Masturbation, Catholic teaching. I've never...
Are you the world's authority on this, you think?
I think so. I mean, I'm the missionary to the Masturbators.
You are. That was episode like 20. You knew you
yeah,
calling in life.
I've been running from it ever since, and the Lord is just like,
you're like
no.
Jonah.
Yeah, I am.
The whale. Yeah.
I am kind of.
This
like
is your
Jonah.
Nineveh.
This is. So. I ran, but I realized this is my cross in life, I guess. So here I am. I'm here to bring the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right.
Of Catholic Church teaching and some sort of more general historical context to the topic of masturbation and how and why the church maybe does teach what it does. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
So we're going to do our best to be
sure to be stimulating.
As long as we stop short. So, okay.
All right.
With that, I'm going to put up on the thing I'm going to try. I got a lot of tech going on here. I got slides. So
you're surrounded by a wall of information.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming. Let's see. Okay, so masturbation and Catholic teaching, that is today's topic. So I'm actually going to start from kind of the present and move backwards. So Let's start with 2352 of the Catechism. I apologize.
It's probably the most cited section of the Catechism on our show.
Yeah, and I found someone who said it's had some particular words to say about this section of the Catechism. Okay. I'm excited to show you. Apologize, the font is a little goofy. It took me about halfway through the process of building slides to realize how to paste without screwing up the formatting. But this is section 2352 of the Catechism. We have cited that by the Catechism. We're talking about, the 1992 version of the Catechism. Mm-hmm. So
not the Baltimore Catechism.
Not the Baltimore Catechism. But so this is the Catechism section, and what I have included, because this is really important. I'm not going to read the whole section. People have to read it, but there's a couple footnotes, because the footnotes are kind of important here. So there's 2 footnotes cited within the section 2352. Both of those cite to Persona Humana, section 9, which is a document I think put out in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. For let's see here, by the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Okay, so that's 2352 is, I guess, the current law, unless you're a Sedevacantists. Then I guess you're still relying on the Catechism of Trent, which I'm going to get to in a moment here.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, riveting. Okay, so let's go to the next slide.
But basically, you're saying that it's been the constant tradition and the moral sense of the faithful and outside of marriage are the key points of that.
Yeah, I think it's important to, as we're talking about this and going through the slides, that it's interesting. The church justifies it, or the Catechism says that it's wrong because it's been the constant tradition, and the moral sense of the faithful have been in no doubt, which I think is interesting, and firmly maintain that masturbation is an intrinsically and gravely disordered action. I did cite this next.
Yeah.
The deliberate use of the sexual faculty for whatever reason outside of marriage is essentially contrary to its purpose.
That is quite a clause.
You'll see why it's in bold here in a moment.
Okay.
So that is the section, and then of course the last paragraph is the one that kind of deals with diminished culpability depending on the circumstances. Okay, so that's 2352 of the Catechism. This is the UCAT Catechism, which I hadn't really heard about until recently. Yeah, Father Carr brought it to our attention. It is something. It was put out, I think, at the time of one of the World Youth Days, and I think Pope Benedict gave it his imprimatur, whatever you want to call it. And so this is the language from Section 409 of the UCAT. Says masturbation is an offense against love because it makes the excitement of sexual pleasure in itself and uncouples it from the holistic unfolding of love between a man and a woman. That is why, quote, sex with yourself, unquote, is a contradiction in terms. And then it cites 2352. The church does not demonize masturbation. That's kind of interesting. But she warns against trivializing it.
Okay. Sure.
In fact, many young people and adults are in danger of becoming isolated in their consumption of lewd pictures, films, and internet services instead of finding love in a personal relationship. Loneliness can lead to a blind alley in which masturbation becomes an addiction. Living the motto, for sex I do not need anyone, I will have it myself, however and whenever I need it, makes nobody happy. I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah, that is quite a quote. I wonder, it's not a motto per se.
I don't know. I don't know whose motto that was.
Yeah.
But I do have the link to that below. What I will say is, if anyone wants the slides, I'll be happy to share them. If you're on the newsletter email or the email newsletter list, I'll do it there, or certainly in Discord.
It sure is interesting. They specify that it's sex with yourself.
Yeah.
Which,
yeah,
when people talk about other acts, they often say that it's mutual masturbation. But
right. And we've been kind of probing into that a little bit, trying to understand from a kind of a categorical standpoint, for those that say other acts is wrong, is it because it's masturbation, or is it it's kind of its own unique category?
Or is it birth control or preventing contraception?
Yeah, that isn't,
or preventing conception.
Yeah, that isn't super clear to me. We're actually looking at talking to someone who might be able to offer some clarity on that. Okay. I did want to talk about this 2351. I know it's a little small on here. Again, I had it took me a while to figure out the font, but 2351, which I think is sort of interesting too, is the one right before 2352. And so it says, lust is disordered desire for or inordinate enjoyment of sexual pleasure. So it's focused on sexual pleasure, not on another person. It's about the act of sexual pleasure, either having too much desire for it or enjoying it too much, apparently. Not sure what that means.
That is funny.
Yeah.
How do you know if you enjoyed it too much?
I guess you just, if you honey, that was amazing, but not too amazing. It was just right.
Inordinate enjoyment. I would assume that means that it is becoming the focal point of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe not distinct acts, but just the volume. I don't know. It doesn't, there's no footnotes to this one, so I don't know where but it goes on, it says sexual pleasure. So again, it focuses on sexual pleasure is morally disordered when sought for itself, isolated from its procreative and unitive purposes. What I find interesting about that is, so it says isolated from the procreative and unitive purposes. Does that mean it's isolated from like both of those, or just can it be if it's isolated from just one of those? Like, do the procreative and what if it goes with something that's unitive but not procreative? Like, I'm not sure what they mean by that. What I think is interesting is
it says and, so
yeah, I'm not, or I don't know. It does seem like if you read it that way, you're saying it applies if you're doing an act that is neither unitive nor procreative.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that kind of looks like 2352 to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not clear to me, just some observations I had as I was putting these slides together. It's not clear to me if the sexual pleasure that they're referring to extends beyond the conjugal act. So is it, foreplay, kissing, touching, things like that? If you enjoy,
That too much?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's not clear what they mean.
Disordered desire for foreplay.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's maybe what John Farrell would say.
Yeah.
That a lot of this is.
Yeah. Well, but that is, sort of the whole, say, post John Paul II theology of the body is emphasized the need to really address the woman's typical arousal curve and to provide adequate service to that so that she is ready for the conjugal act.
But the interesting part of that is that if you remove foreplay from the act, you're kind of removing a lot of the unitive part of the act.
Yeah.
So then you're left with just the procreative.
Yeah. It's not clear what they mean. And I would also note that it seems this definition of lust seems different from, like, let's say, like Matthew, I think it's Matthew 5:28 to 29. That's like, if someone looks on a woman with lust, you've committed adultery in your heart. Like, that's what I usually think of when I think of lust, is like my mind towards another person, not this could be disordered enjoyment of something that's perfectly valid, like not adultery, just something with your spouse. But that section is odd to me, just because it's not. I don't think it's the way we typically think of lust. At least that's not the way I typically think of lust. But I wanted to include.
I agree.
I want to include it in there because some people will point to this section when you start talking about other acts or things like that, because they'll say, well, that's, even though there's not like a 2352 directly that deals with it, that would fall under this section. I don't know. So in fairness, I'm offering that section in here just so that I'm trying to be thorough here.
Clarity on what inordinate enjoyment is.
Yeah.
So it would really be nice, because if you're not enjoying it, why, that's,
I've never confessed violating 2351, but that doesn't, I don't know.
And you've enjoyed it, probably, I'm assuming.
I don't know. So
I don't know.
Don't know what that means, but
I just wonder what the conversation was like when they decided to put that in there. They can't enjoy it too much.
It feels like kind of a holdover from the, I don't know, the bone to the Augustinians or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, there's no footnote there, so it's not really referencing anything. But so anyway, moving on.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, 2352 cites the persona humana, and it's 5 paragraphs. So I've broken it down into 5 slides here because they won't all fit in one unless it be really small. So this first section of persona humana, and again, this is put out by the what do they say? Confraternity. What's the name of it?
I'm Googling.
These slides are terrible. The paper one is terrible.
The
Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Okay.
Yep.
And it came out in 1975,
75,
which was after Vatican II, Humanae Vitae, but before the Catechism came out, obviously, because the Catechism cites it. So the first section, the first paragraph of Persona Humana says, the traditional Catholic doctrine that so it actually deals with masturbation.
Okay.
The traditional Catholic doctrine that masturbation constitutes a grave moral disorder is often called into doubt or expressly denied today. And any of the bold in here is mine. Okay, that's more for me. Just make sure I hit the points I want to hit.
Sorry.
It is said that psychology and sociology show that it is a normal phenomenon of sexual development, especially among the young. It is stated that there is real and serious fault only in the measure that the subject deliberately indulges in solitary pleasure, closed in on self, they call that ipsation.
Okay.
Because in this case, the act would indeed be radically opposed to the loving communion between persons of different sex, which some hold is what is principally sought in the use of the sexual faculty. Okay.
Okay.
So the next paragraph is sort of in response to that. So the paragraph 2, and I may have to change the layout of this so that it. No, that doesn't do it. Lost my slides.
It is interesting. This document was
There we go.
a response because many of the faithful had specific questions. That's why they put this together.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I kind of wonder what was the origin of it. Like, what was the post Humana Vitae questions that people had?
We need clarification on masturbation.
Yeah, apparently they're rioting in the streets, huh? Writing letters and
writing to the bishop.
Okay, I can see that. So the second paragraph, which is responding to the first one, so this opinion, so the whole idea that psychology and sociology say that it's a common normal phenomenon, etc., is contradictory to the teaching and pastoral practice of the Catholic Church. So I think it's interesting they use the term opinion to talk about sort of these scientific observations and conclusions. Now, in psychology and sociology, maybe it's a little less.
It's not always clear.
It's not as clear as, let's say, biology or math
or chemistry or anything.
Right. Okay. So they go on. Whatever the force of certain arguments of a biological and philosophical nature, which have sometimes been used by theologians, in fact, both the magisterium of the church in the course of a constant tradition, that's similar language to 2352, and the moral sense of the faithful have declared without hesitation. Now that is a little different. I think they say without doubt, but without hesitation, that masturbation is an intrinsically and seriously disordered act. The main reason is that whatever the motive for acting this way, the deliberate use of the sexual faculty outside normal conjugal relations essentially contradicts the finality of the faculty. For it, and I won't read the rest of it, but I thought it was interesting, and so I put down here below it the section from 2352 that I talked about, where it talks about the deliberate use of the sexual faculty outside of marriage. So 2352 talks about masturbation as the use of the sexual faculty outside of marriage, and Persona Humana talks about it outside normal conjugal relations. I don't know what it means by normal conjugal relations.
As opposed to abnormal conjugal relations.
I don't know if it's they're uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't know why. The terms aren't always clear and consistent, right?
Like they could have said sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
And we would know what that means.
Right. So these are the terms. I don't make up the terms. I'm just reading the terms, but just noting that there's a difference. There was different language used in 2352 than was used in Persona Humana. Okay. And what's important here is there's two footnotes here. Or I think they're endnotes of Persona Humana, 19 and 20. Okay. And 19, I actually went in search of because some of these are old. One's from 1054, one's from 1679. I mean, we went all out, folks.
Yeah, that is what we talked about earlier. 1054 is when they officially outlawed solo activity.
Well, that's
1,000 years.
Exactly. As I was doing it, because that was something that you have said before, that it looked like there hadn't really been much of a mention before 1054.
And that was according to Wikipedia.
Right. And in Wikipedia mentions that, because I get to Wikipedia later. Okay. I think they reference this letter from Leo the 11th, or no, 9th. Sorry, my Roman numerals are not great. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on here. So these are the notes. So I wanted to break down those two notes from that second paragraph of Humana Persona Humana. Okay. Let's see here. I apologize. I'm working on the same slideshow on the computer screen, but it's not. I'm a slide behind here on the actual recording. So note 19 cites to let's see, Leo. So there's three sources cited in note 19, and this is two of them. The first one is the letter to Leo the ninth, our letter of Leo the ninth, ad splendidum nitentis. Good luck, AI, when you're trying to make the transcript for this one. In the year 1054, decree of the Holy Office, it condemned homosexual acts, especially among the clerics. So I believe from that letter was really about kind of like misbehaving clerics.
And it's interesting that they would say, especially among the clerics.
Yeah. I don't know if they're saying it was a special problem among the clerics, but it was.
Well, I just mean the emphasis is on the clerics,
Yeah.
whereas the general population maybe.
Right.
I don't know, there's a need to point it out. And I'm just
Yeah.
saying that, you know, what their society looked like would be really interesting to know, whether or not there were a lot of same-sex relationships going on,
Right.
or
Right.
I don't know.
Right. But this is a letter.
Because at that time, could the priest be married?
I don't know. My impression from reading it, and there's actually a link here to the. Let's see here. Maybe we can pull this up. I'll see if I can get it up on the screen. I can't remember if this is in English or not. Bear with me.
Oh, it was in the 12th century. So back then, the priest could be married.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was married. Let's see here.
It was in 1139. The Second Lateran Council ruled that forbidding priests to marry.
When was it?
1139, and then the Council of Trent reaffirmed that.
Okay.
So again, these guys could have been married.
Yeah.
So
let's see here. Let me present. I'm going to share a screen. I'm actually going to share this. Okay. Let me see here.
Do we know who Peter Damian is?
Was it like his? It was like his nephew or something? A
No
relative?
kidding. So he just read into his relative, and we get to read this.
Yeah, I don't. I apologize. I didn't. Peter Damian's Book of Gomorrah regarding Christianity, social tolerance, and homosexuality.
Saint Peter Damian.
Okay.
I'll add that.
Maybe it's not his relative. So this is a letter of Pope Leo to the hermit Peter, I guess. So so I guess Leo wrote this book, and he says, "The book which you have published, my son." Maybe that's what I was thinking. He said,
"Oh,
my son.
I see," but he didn't mean it that way.
Maybe not. Yeah, against the fourfold pollution of carnal contagion, frank in style and even more direct in reasoning, provides indisputable evidence of the intention of your mind to enter the holy fray on the side of the splendid might of shining modesty. You have indeed smitten wantonness of the flesh by thus striking with the arm of the spirit against obscene desire, clearly delineating the execrable vice by the authority of virtue, which, since it is itself immaculate, allows no uncleanness. So this was dealing with, I think this is dealing with a problem of clerics or would-be clerics that were into self-pollution.
Okay.
Or other things. Mm-hmm. Nor could it ever be the sort of thing which would lend itself to sordid vanities. Indeed, these clerics concerning whose disgusting lives your wisdom has discoursed mournfully, fairly, and reasonably are rightly, altogether rightly excluded from, literally do not belong to, the bond of its inheritance, from which they have cut themselves off with voluptuous pleasures. Okay. Because if they live chastely, they might not be called not only the holy temple of God, but also the sanctuary in which the Lamb of God is sacrificed in shining glory, through whom the horrid filth of the whole world is cleansed.
Okay.
Such clerics, of course, reveal by the testimony of their deeds, if not their words, that they are not what they are thought to be. For how could anyone be or even be called a cleric when he has not feared to do evil through his own will? I don't remember. Let's see. I'm looking to see where he specifically talks about the acts. Let's see here. Even though all those polluted by the filth of any of the four types of this sin must be referenced in the book, mentioned are excluded from all rank in the spotless church by the just censure of equity, both that of sacred councils and by our own judgment, yet we, acting more humanely, desire and ordain that those who elicited their seed either, okay, here we go. Those who elicited their seed either with their own hands or mutually with someone else, and even those who spilled it interfemorally.
Between the legs.
Oh, okay. That must be masturbation, huh?
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Okay. If it was not a long-standing practice or performed with many men, and if they have restrained their desires and atoned for these shameful sins with a suitable penance, should be admitted to the same rank which they held while in sin, although they no longer remain so. So it's dealing with clerics that have fallen into one of these various problems. Sometimes I think homosexual or whatever. Some of it between the legs.
It's interesting to point out interfemorally, the femur, and like, how big of a problem was that? Do people do that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the Vatican's version of the Canterbury Tales, I guess. I don't know.
So people did 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. So anyway, so it is cutting to the punchline. But beloved son, I rejoice inexpressibly that you demonstrate with the example of your life just what you have taught with the gift of your words. For it is greater to instruct by deed than by word. Wherefore, God willing, you shall earn the branch of victory and rejoice with the Son of God and the Virgin in the abode of heaven. And for every one of the crowd saved by you from the fires of the devil, you shall be crowned and rewarded with graces. So he must have been writing him a letter, thanking him for a book, scolding these clerics for these kinds of things. Okay, so this is a letter, and this is sort of considered kind of an important letter in the history of the church's teaching.
Okay.
So anyway, okay, little history lesson there.
Yeah. Boy, you really dug deep there.
I did. I
thanks to Google, huh?
Yeah, it'd have been much more difficult before the internet. Okay,
that's for sure.
Let me see if I can get to there. Okay, now I got to get back to my slides. Okay, back to the slides. So that is number one. That was the letter ad splendidum nitentis. Sorry for all the Latin people out there. Okay, the next one is not clear to me. It's DS 2149. The language below is from a priest that dug up this for me and gave me some commentary. This is not from the text itself. But he says DS 2149 needs to be read with the opposite meaning because it is part of a list of condemned heresies. Voluptuousness is not prohibited by the law of nature. Therefore, if God had not forbidden it, it would be good and sometimes obligatory under pain of mortal sin. I'm not sure what voluptuousness means. I'm not sure if that has the same meaning as the present time. And he says, I'm assuming it is to dress in a sexually provocative manner. It actually, he said, so it actually means it is a mortal sin to dress in a sexually provocative manner.
Oh, wow.
So it's a good thing you guys can't see Jonah over here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dressed like that all the
time. So anyway.
When I searched the word voluptuous sex, it's just to see if there was a definition for sex. And Pornhub came up first. I want a definition.
You're not on my Wi-Fi, are you?
No, I'm not. You'll be getting ads.
Yeah. So getting a call from the telephone company. So anyway, that is that source. It doesn't seem to talk about masturbation, but it is one of the sources cited in that section of Persona Humana.
And voluptuousness, according to AI, refers to soft, curved, and sexually attractive, and full of delight or pleasure. That seems to be the most reasonable.
Yeah, I was thinking big things. Okay.
That's what she said.
Big full things. Okay, that's what I. So anyway, but they used words differently back then. So
wow. So you shouldn't get your wife attractive lingerie. Is that what this is saying?
Well, yeah. Is this inside the house or outside the house? I don't know.
I mean,
they probably weren't a fan of that back then inside the house either. Wrap yourself in burlap and keep the candle lit low.
I'm guessing, I don't know what sort of sexy lingerie they had 1,000 years ago, but
Yeah, I bet it was.
it's probably limited.
I bet it was limited. It was just worn out, and so there was holes in it.
I bet you it was that or more like a veil, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just guessing though.
As we pretty much are all the time here, just guessing. Okay, do not take theological advice from us. So, I suppose I could. I'm not going to have us scrolling. Do not take theological advice from us. You can fact check all of this, but I'm just showing you what I found.
We're just talking.
We're just talking. Okay, so, and then this is the third source referenced in note 19 from Persona Humana. Let me go to this. And this is the Allocutio. This is from 1953 from Pius XII. I think Pius XII was the one that had that letter, that speech to the midwives, telling him,
"Oh yeah,
married couples need to behave yourselves."
Mm-hmm.
I did not look this one up because, and this again, this is a response from the priest that was doing some digging for me. It's in Latin and French, and I don't know either of those without a good translation. So, it says both basically state that masturbation is forbidden for any reason. Number 45 is directed to doctors who testify in canonical trials for annulment. So anyway, those are the links. That was in 1953 by Pius XII, but I'm not in a position to actually show you that.
Because they just say that masturbation is forbidden.
That's what it says supposedly. Yep. Okay. All right. So going to the next slide. I got some good ones coming up for you here. Really excited to show you.
All right.
Jonah and I don't rehearse anything, so we get true, authentic. Okay.
I even asked to send the materials ahead of time, and
well, I didn't finish until about an hour ago. I was up until midnight last night.
Wow, cramming for the big test.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I hope you all appreciate the work I put into this and the work I did not do today getting this ready. So the other one that was cited in note 20 was Gaudium et Spes. I believe that's a document of Vatican II. I have a link to it here. It has a page number, but none of the online versions have the page numbers, and I don't think I have a written copy of Gaudium et Spes. So I think I opened up the online. I think I searched masturbation. I don't think anything came up, but I cannot confirm. I can neither confirm nor deny that Gaudium et Spes talks about masturbation. I think it doesn't, but I'm just putting it up there so I'm being thorough and people don't think I'm hiding stuff,
overlooking something.
Okay. And if anyone has the actual page number, like 1072, feel free to send it to us. We'll take a look at it. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is section. Let's see. I have to
Persona Humana.
Yeah. This is paragraph 3 of 5 on this. Okay. So again, this is what is cited in 2352. That's why we're going through this. This is the really only things cited to support 2352, and then we're going through the footnotes that are actually cited in Persona Humana. That's as far back as I'm going. Okay. So just so we're clear, going back to paragraph 2, basically said it doesn't matter what the opinion of the sciences are. The rule is what the rule is, basically.
Outside of normal conjugal relations.
Yeah, right. Right, whatever that is. Okay, so paragraph 3 says sociological surveys are able to show the frequency of this disorder according to the places, populations, or circumstances studies. In this way, facts are discovered, but facts do not constitute a criterion for judging the moral value of human acts. Okay. I'm just gonna refrain from commenting on it.
Agree on that.
Okay. This I thought was interesting. So the frequency of the phenomenon in question, so they're talking about the frequency of masturbation in question, is certainly to be linked with man's innate weakness following original sin.
The bonobos fell with us as well.
That's right. Sorry.
Taking down all the great apes.
Yeah, maybe they went and they bit on the apple after he was done. I don't know. But it is also to be linked with the loss of a sense of God, with the corruption of morals engendered by the commercialization of vice, with the unrestrained licentiousness of so many public entertainments and publications, as well as with the neglect of modesty, which is the guardian of chastity. So,
Sure.
notable is they say that the frequency of this, and I don't know if we get into this in later slides, but there was studies done that basically like 90% of men, including Catholics, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so they blame that, or attribute that, maybe blame is the wrong word, attribute that to sin and the effects of original sin, not on any kind of biological thing. They don't really talk about whether there's any benefit to it. Is there something in our natures that craves it? So just I'm pointing that out as an observation. Okay. Footnote 21. So there's a footnote to this one, and this one is it quotes Paul VI apostolic exhortation. So this is a quote. This is what the footnote looks like. It's something its sociological surveys are useful for better discovering the thought patterns of the people of a particular place, the anxieties and needs of those to whom we proclaim the word of God, and also the opposition made to it by modern reasoning through the widespread notion that outside science there exists no legitimate form of knowledge. Still, the conclusions drawn from such surveys could not of themselves constitute a determining criterion of truth. Okay, that's what that third section, or third paragraph of Persona Humana says, section 9. Okay, going to paragraph 4.
I'm Googling how the percentage of people that go solo, and there's some widely variable stats, or even in publications.
I think it was James Dobson, Dr. Dobson. Now, he wasn't a Catholic, said like 95% of men do it. The other 5% are lying. I think he's
liar.
Yeah, I think he's the one that said that. And he's actually referenced in the Wikipedia article. If we get to it, there's a whole section on this in Wikipedia. It's very interesting. So Persona Humana, paragraph 4. On the subject of masturbation, modern psychology provides much valid and useful information for formulating a more equitable judgment on moral responsibility and for orienting pastoral action. So they see modern psychology as being useful in determining someone's culpability, not necessarily from understanding why it happens, when it happens, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. Okay. Psychology helps one to see how the immaturity of adolescence, which can sometimes persist after that age. I've heard that too.
Yep.
I've heard that too.
So word on the street.
Yeah, that's right. Have it on good information, good authority. Psychological imbalance or habit can influence behavior, diminishing the deliberate character of the act and bringing about a situation whereby subjectively there may not always be serious fault. But in general, the absence of serious responsibility must not be presumed. This would be to misunderstand people's moral capacity. Okay. So that is, and there must not be a footnote to this one. And again, it's just interesting how they talk about psychology can be useful in determining culpability, but not in understanding why people do it, for example, and whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. Okay, so next slide is paragraph 5. Hopefully everyone's still awake. It's worth the wait. Like I'm telling you, it's going to get good here.
It's going to build up to a climax here.
That's right. You got to start slow. Okay.
Get it warmed up.
Yep. Persona Humana, paragraph 5 of section 9. Excuse me. And this looks a lot like 2352, the second paragraph. Okay. In the pastoral ministry, in order to form an adequate judgment in concrete cases, the habitual behavior of people will be considered in its totality. Not only with regard to the individual's practice of charity and of justice, but also with regard to the individual's care in observing the particular precepts of chastity. In particular, one will have to examine whether the individual is using the necessary means, both natural and supernatural, which Christian asceticism from its long experience recommends for overcoming the passions and progressing in virtue. Okay. What I want to go back to 2352 for just a second here, because let's see here. Only because 2352 in that second section, to form an equitable judgment about the subject's moral responsibility and to guide pastoral action must take into account the affective immaturity, force of acquired habit, conditions of anxiety, and other psychological or social factors that lessen, if not even reduce to a minimum, moral culpability. They don't ask about your moral, your marital state.
Mhm.
I mean, they don't come out and say it, but it looks like they're treating this as an adolescent issue, a single adolescent, especially adolescent boy issue.
Well, and like 1,000 years ago, people got married much younger.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah. 15 was middle-aged.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't have much time left.
That's right.
Better get cracking.
That's right. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead to, okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about Persona Humana and the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith. Did I get that right? Whatever. Yeah, I think I did. Because I'm curious as to whether it is infallible. And and this is what I was told by a priest. Do not take this as theological advice, but this is what he told me. I asked him, is persona, because I don't think the catechism, at least the 1992 catechism, is considered infallible, at least not as a whole.
And I thought somebody said that it is supported by binding documents, but it itself is
right.
Not
There are elements in it that are infallible because they're based on prior stuff that was infallibly taught or part of the magisterium. But I was curious about this, since it comes from the Doctrine of the Faith. And he said, in answer to the infallible question, I would say that certain elements of it are infallible, specifically that which defines the fundamental option and what constitutes a mortal sin. However, this document better defines the realities in the sexual in the term fundamental option, and I'll talk about that a little later. The fundamental option, in which it gives the extenuating factors for defining it. So, as with all documents, they hold various levels of authority, which cannot be easily dismissed. But from what I can tell, only the paragraph that defines this fundamental option would be to a level close to infallible. That doesn't. I don't. That doesn't help me necessarily know what I'm supposed to do with the 5 paragraphs of Persona Humana. But anyway, I wanted to include that in there just because that's often a question. If the church says something in something like Persona Humana, what type of deference is it entitled to? Right. Okay, moving on. There is, not surprisingly, there's some critics of 2352, and this guy caught my attention, so I'm going to share a little bit of it. This is a Father David Nix. He has a website.
Okay.
He's definitely a traditional priest, but I feel like he's under the diocese. He in looking him up, he reminds me a little bit of a Father Ripperger. I found some letter. He must operate similar to Father Ripperger, who I think also is out of Denver. Yeah, right. They probably know each other. So, and I have a link to his website if you want to go check it out. The death penalty is the new CCC. In the new CCC is a big problem, but by far the most destructive line in the new, and he says non-infallible CCC is 2352. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's talking about. I think he's specifically talking about that second paragraph that deals with diminished culpability. He said, in fact, that line in the new CCC is endangering the souls of countless priests, laymen, and a growing number of women struggling with such online addictions. Hundreds of American priests are telling thousands of Catholic adults, teens, and even children in the confessional that they can go to Holy Communion after self-abuse. I love it when they say self-abuse without confession. Why?
They're not enjoying it.
Yeah, I think you're doing it wrong. Why? Again, because they have reduced culpability due to the force of acquired habit of that mortal sin of self-abuse. I thought this was interesting. St. Alphonsus says if a person confesses the same mortal sin 3 times in a year, he should be denied absolution while the priest coaches him on how to overcome both the sin and the near occasion of sin. Even if penitents out there think this is too extreme, realizing that it is better to refrain from both Holy Communion and confession and confession.
Oh, so
Until
we
one
shouldn't even go to confession.
Apparently, until one can make a good confession with a firm resolution of amendment.
I see what they're saying. But I don't know what
that makes a lot of sense, I would say, to almost everything but this particular sin and things like it.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're constantly stealing, killing people, whatever. I mean, I get.
Yeah. Dishonoring your mother and father. I don't know. But this is why, and I'm trying not to offer too much commentary here, but St. Alphonsus Liguori, I was getting into a discussion online recently with some people about who were citing St. Alphonsus Liguori, and I'm like, that guy just induces scrupulosity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what do you mean by that? I'm like, well, this is why. Like, you imagine going to confession with St. Alphonsus Liguori and talking about this sin. I'd go to him twice, and I'd find another priest.
Then go back.
It's been over a year.
Why would he choose 3 times? Only because of the Trinity.
It could be.
Like, I mean, I'm sure that it's something like that. It's a numerology kind of thing.
I don't know. This kind of stuff, I just find interesting because this is all developed above and beyond what, like, even the Catechism says. Mm-hmm. Of course, he doesn't recognize the Catechism, but I'll go on. So he says,
"Boy, that's painful."
Yeah. And so again, this is his website. Keep in mind as you read this blog post that the new Catechism of the Catholic Church, released in 1992, is not infallible. On the other hand, Pope Clement XIII said that the 16th century Roman Catechism of Trent, RCT, contains that teaching which is the common doctrine of the Church, from which all danger of doctrinal error is absent. No other catechism released by the Church has ever been said to be free from all doctrinal error. So, got to go back to the 1500s. The Baltimore Catechism didn't make the cut, I guess, and I don't know if there's other catechisms.
I know that's a strong proclamation there.
Yeah. So anyway, and I've heard Trad say, go back to the Catechism of Trent, which I thought was the Council of Trent. When was the Council of Trent? Wasn't it a lot older?
I thought it was.
Maybe it was. Maybe the Council of Trent was in response to the Protestant Reformation. I don't remember if this came out of the Council of Trent or not. Jonah's fact checking that for me.
Council of Trent was 1545.
Okay.
And 1563.
Yeah. Okay. So same vintage. So, so I went out and I found the Roman Catechism of Trent.
Oh man,
I'm here to deliver, folks. Okay.
Where did you find it at?
Online.
Oh man.
Yeah. It
was translated though in the 1900s. I hope the translation's good.
Yeah, it's English translation. It was published.
Yeah,
there's a number of them. It was originally published in 1566. It's long. Well, it's 346 pages long. If you want, I'll see if I can put it on the screen and show.
Oh, there's a lot of zeros there.
Yeah.
Like you're saying you searched the document for those terms?
Yeah, let me talk about that in a moment here.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the I want to show you the let's see. No, not that one. They're not in the right order on my tab, so bear with me. Why can't I find it?
So I was looking for masturbation prevalence among people by decade. I was interested to see if I could find historically how many people went solo.
Uh-huh.
And I just found this article about how higher levels of education may be associated with masturbation. So
everything causes it.
Everything causes it, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to show people I've got it up here somewhere. Where is it? Let me see here. Sorry for those that are looking here. I found it. Okay. Let's see, books. Oh, you think I could find it on here? There we go. I'll bring it up to the top here. So anyway, I'm just showing you this is an online version of it, and I'm actually going to come back to it because I'm gonna dig into this catechism a little bit. I got some bad news for John.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna tease him a little bit. Gonna go back to
Poor guy.
Yeah. Okay, so I did try to search for words like masturbation, procreation, lust, sex, onan. Like,
So that stuff was not in there, and that is
I did-
the only infallible.
I did not see it, and then as I was going through the document, sometimes I would see a word that, like, I don't know why the search.
Yeah.
So I can't say with 100% certainty that those terms aren't in there, but I kind of went and I looked at the sections that would talk about it, and I did not see it. So
Okay.
I'm not saying with 100% certainty that the Catechism of Trent doesn't talk about masturbation, but I don't think it does. I did not find it in there. Okay.
Under the radar at that time.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess
maybe
so.
for a reason.
And of course, this was coming out in the context of the Protestant Reformation, which was really dealing with what do we believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a section on the creed, a section on the sacraments, and a section on the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments. So those are the three broad sections within the Catechism of Trent. So that it was maybe this wasn't the biggest.
Probably fall within the sacraments or the Decalogue, obviously.
Maybe this wasn't the most burning problem they were dealing with as Luther was ripping the church apart. So, okay. All right. So, but I want to talk. So I did look up chastity in the Council of Trent, just in case it was in there. A few things I wanted to note. So I have it up on the screen here. Council of Trent chastity. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it talks about, adultery. Don't be looking at harlots.
Okay.
Fornication, adulterers, effeminate, sodomites. I'm actually going to talk about effeminate, which could include masturbation.
Okay.
But this is the language that I found in the Catechism of Trent. Okay. All right. Moving on. Let's see. So I did search because I've seen that term effeminate. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. What do they mean by that? It meant something different back then than it does now.
Okay.
This is what AI said, so take it for what it's worth. But it says in the Middle Ages, gender and sexuality were more complex than they are today, and there were no modern categories of heterosexuality and homosexuality. So it talks about effeminate referred to, for example, sexual positions. That was kind of back.
Really?
Yeah, like they I think if you weren't doing it missionary style, the man was on the bottom. That was considered effeminate.
Oh.
Yeah. Or other positions. So that's kind of the common folklore is when the missionaries like went out and taught the new people about the faith. That was one of the things they taught them is how to have sex.
No, I always wondered that.
Yeah. I believe that is the correct origin of it. So that's what they said him.
No kidding.
Yeah, you guys got to
stop. Be on the top.
You got to stop with this other monkey business. It's got to be. This is how you do it, and that's why they call it missionary.
This is how I wonder what the demonstration was like.
I don't know. Very rough stick figures. I don't know.
Drawing in the dirt.
Yeah, right. Okay, sexual activity. So sex was only permitted for reproductive purposes and was not allowed on church holy days. So we're not. Okay. This is back when people had it really tough back then. This meant that for married couples, they could only have sex 2 to 5 days a month.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, that's actually not far off from where I'm at.
Well, you've been setting that. You knew that was coming. That's really funny. Huh.
Maybe they're using the Marquette method back then too, huh?
They had the strips and everything.
Yeah. Sexual practices, so all other orifices and practices that did not result in sperm ending up in the womb were considered unnatural. So I think for sure no oral back then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when they use the term effeminate, it was kind of a catch-all for all that. But it seems like it was much more about how they were doing the conjugal act. It's not obvious from here whether that intended to refer to, like, let's say solo or whatever. Okay, but that's a term that's in the Council of Trent or the Catechism of Trent. So I wanted to do a little section on that. Okay. All right. I'm going to kind of skip over this just for sake of time, but I can't. This is for John.
2 to 5 days a month, though.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah. The ends of marriage. So there's a section in there on the ends of marriage.
Oh, John.
The ends of marriage, according to the Catechism of Trent. Number 1, companionship.
John.
Children was second.
You've been lying to us.
Yeah. So companionship. Imagine that. Companionship was number 1.
Huh.
And if you don't believe me, I'll even show you. I'm going to put it on the board.
Do you have the Latin or whatever?
No.
Whatever language says.
Yeah. Let me see here if I can find. No, that's not what I Okay. All right. I just because John won't believe me.
Okay.
Okay. The motives and ends of marriage. So first of all, nature in itself, by an instinct implanted in both sexes, impels them to such companionship, and this is further encouraged by the hope of mutual assistance in bearing more easily the discomforts of life and the infirmities of old age.
Wow.
So that's number 1.
Number 1. The second reason.
Second one is to bring children, and the third one is to it's an antidote to lust. It's a way to.
Well, that's what they say, huh?
Yeah, that's what they said.
Huh.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting when they can only have sex 2 days a month.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how much that was helping anybody, but whatever. So, anyway, so that's from the last true infallible catechism.
It's the kind of thing that makes you wonder, what it was like for them, because, is it the food that we have today that brings this about?
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know. I'm guessing, they didn't have Netflix or anything like that. They had nothing to do at night. Maybe just guarding their was enough to keep them busy. I don't know.
keeping raiders from taking your chickens at night and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I wanted to share that quick so people could see that. All right, we're gonna move through a little more quickly.
Feel free to comment, John.
Yeah,
we know you will.
That was for you. I know you're gonna be heartbroken. Okay. Thomas Aquinas. I'm actually not going to spend a lot of time on Aquinas because I'll let the phasers of the world cover Aquinas. This one was fun. So oania, or the heinous sin of self-pollution, was put out by a Catholic doctor in, when was it? It was in the it was in the 1700s. Okay. It was a pamphlet put out by a Catholic neurologist and Vatican advisor.
Okay.
And I actually got it. There's a PDF copy of it. I'm going to show you in a second. Okay. Because I have to.
Oh, they have injured themselves by this abominable practice.
Yeah. I don't know what they were doing back then, but.
I thought it said onamania. Onamania. It's onania.
It's same origin or whatever, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the reason I'm sharing this is kind of what was being told. This is what people believed about masturbation.
Okay.
Back then.
And what year was this? I'm sorry.
This was in the 1700s, was it?
Okay.
Is that right? This is a PDF copy of it. I'm not. It's long. It's 350 pages. It must have been like putting out periodicals, and they added to it. So there's actually a PDF copy of this. It's pretty. If you really want something to do, go do that. Okay. But I'm gonna summarize some of the things that came out of that. Okay. This is what they believed. So okay. This is from Wikipedia, but I think this is correct. It believed it. First of all, the author reaffirmed the contemporary religious beliefs that masturbation is sinful and one should therefore abstain from it. They also argue, and I kind of wonder how much this belief of all these medical conditions was influenced by the fact that they thought it was sinful, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. They also argue that the practice would result in diseases and physical abnormalities such as epilepsy, pallor, hysteria, feeble legs, and weak jaws.
Huh.
Yep.
Boy, I feel like we'd see a lot of that today.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it just seems. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the rate of use has gone down. I wouldn't think.
That's why I was trying to search by the decades.
Yeah.
We are just.
It warns against the degradation of the human race by associating masturbation with giving birth to weak and sickly children. Masturbation was said to
Your
cause
tits look pretty strong, Craig. I don't...
That's just proof that I'm innocent. That's my alibi.
That's true. You're good.
My alibi.
Yeah.
Masturbation was said to cause a degradation of sperm and cause impotence. That'd be kind of nice. Maybe.
Well, that's what those no-fap guys say.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
But actually, degradation of sperm is just wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, that clearly is not accurate.
Right.
Impotence, I think, you use it or lose it.
I mean, I don't know if you were really raking it over the coals or something like that. I don't know what they were doing.
Supposed to try to
stop
it.
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, that was a publication, and it there was a lot of them distributed. Okay, just so we know, a crazy amount.
Wonder how much it really reduced the frequency. I'm gonna be more careful.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they've been fighting this battle forever, right?
Yeah,
okay.
For 700 years at that point only.
Yeah.
Since 1054.
Right. Okay. This is another one. This guy actually took over, and he kind of same thing. I don't even know how to pronounce that.
Le onanisme?
That sounds good. I'm not even going to try and improve on that. 1760, written by Samuel Auguste Tissot. I don't know. He was
Tissot.
Yeah. I'll stick to butchering Latin. A well-reputed Calvinist Protestant neurologist, physician, and professor and Vatican advisor. He practiced in the Swiss city of Lausanne.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, Europeans. He wrote on the diseases of the poor, on masturbation, on the diseases of men, and letters of rich people and nervous diseases. So in 1760, he published this publication, which was, I think, he was heavily influenced by the last one, the Owen Journal.
Mm-hmm. Owen Mania.
Yeah, he studied young male masturbators, and he argued that semen was an essential oil and stimulus that, when lost from the body in great amounts, would cause a perceptible reduction of strength, memory, and even of reason, blurred vision, nervous disorders, gout, rheumatism, weakening of the organs of generation, blood in the urine, disturbance of the appetite, headaches, and a great number of other disorders. And they still couldn't scare people off from doing it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the snake oil salesman, is what it reminds me.
It's sort of in reverse. It's like, don't do this. Anyway, so this is what people were dealing with. I'm going to skip this. This is just a.
I'll tell you what, though, if I know somebody with gout or arthritis, I'm going to say, hey, better knock that off.
Yeah, all right. We know why.
1760 publication.
Yeah, we know why.
They knew it was going on.
Yeah. Here is a couple of articles that came out that a priest shared with me about sort of the history of masturbation. It talks about the Kinsey reports, how 92% of men and 62% of women masturbated. That was back in 48 and 53. I'm guessing those have gone up since then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a good guess, but maybe they're holding solid.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the current data is. So, and then this is one. This is actually kind of an interesting article. The link is there for it's by a Jewish author, but it's kind of talking about the historic roots in Judaism, which I think
that's interesting.
I think is probably where we got our
moral foundations would come from.
Right. So it talks about, the ritual impurity, Leviticus and all that, like any kind of, and again, kind of like the essential oil thing. Like there was this belief that, man giving up his semen was harmful to him. Some mystics believed emissions of semen released demons. They had all kinds of wild ideas. So
was that a good thing then to release the demons? Or?
No, I think they said you got to keep that in. I don't know if they spawned until they got out.
So
but
this is where we need Reproductive to comment.
Yeah, maybe he can ask them. Okay. So bad.
Right.
Well, he talks. He said he
I
talks
know
to him.
He does. I know, but that may have been the line. The first time we've crossed the line of this show where I feel uncomfortable.
We'll see if we have to edit this out.
No, it's fine.
Okay, so we're going to kind of wrap up here, but did I miss one? Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about. So there's an enormous Wikipedia article on masturbation. So, and it kind of, it starts out because Catholics seem to care the most about it. It kind of goes through things.
Of any world religion?
Yeah.
Okay.
We definitely have the top spot.
We got our hands on that one.
Yep.
Right.
So, and actually, maybe what I'll do, I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. No, we'll go through this slide because I kind of pulled sections out. So, okay, let me get the slide up here. So it starts with the Bible, and it says that most scholars have held that there are no explicit prescriptions in the Bible about masturbation. The word masturbation is never specifically mentioned in the Bible or the Book of Mormon, nor are there any clear, unchallenged references to masturbation. Various passages have been held to implicitly condemn or approve of it. I know, like the Song of Songs has sometimes been suggested to approve of it.
At least oral sex.
Yeah,
I believe.
But others disagree, and there's not a clear condemnation of masturbation in the Bible. I think that is more or less indisputable. They do mention Onan, the 38th chapter of Genesis. I think even in Catholic circles, there's disagreement about the significance of that and what, if anything, that can tell us about masturbation. Even I think the count doesn't say he was masturbating. It called, his coitus interruptus. But then, of course, there's the whole duties to his brother's widow and all that. So, it's mentioned, but I think most scholars say it's hard to say exactly whether you can draw anything from that. Leviticus, there's all kinds of parts in Leviticus. And if you go to the Wikipedia article, the section, it has more of these laid out. I'm just summarizing it for the slides. Talks about how, like release of semen, even I think from intercourse, was unclean, like ritually unclean.
And so that meant that they abstained from the temple for a day, right? Or something like that.
Right. Like if you engaged when your wife was menstruating or something like that. So there's things in Leviticus that really talk about ejaculating as sort of impure, making you unclean in a general sense, as opposed to just specifically, within masturbation as a general concept. The Jewish early Jews.
It is interesting. They would have thought it would be unclean, even resulting from intercourse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder how they came about with that conclusion.
See, that's what's interesting. You got the concept. Well, we've always thought this way, but like at some point, it was like a new thought.
Yeah.
Someone thought this for the first time. So why did they think it?
And then they discussed it. And it was kind of like the loudest voice won,
Yeah,
maybe it was the single guy, versus the married guys.
Yeah, the guys at the
guys
pub.
Are like, I don't know, it's not so bad.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to know how these things started, but they seem to. And if you go to those articles I passed over, they talk about how a lot of it is sort of kind of has some superstitious elements to it. But anyway, Matthew talks about, Matthew, Mark talk about if your hand caused you to sin, cut it off. Poor Origen was infamous. I think the reason he didn't become a saint is because he made himself a eunuch, applying that section of scripture.
So he was not a saint. He never became a saint because of that.
I believe that's true. I believe that's true. Or maybe he couldn't become a priest because of it.
Didn't do it the right way.
I think he couldn't become a priest. Yeah, he lopped it off following that section of scripture. There is some discussion about whether the Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, the word fornication in the Greek is porneia, which apparently has, it may not mean fornication is the way we think of it. It may be more broad than that, to include kind of any kind of sexual improprieties and things like that.
Okay.
There's references to Romans and Corinthians. So anyway, and there's some that say Corinthians 7:35 has been not by Catholics, of course, but have indicated that it specifically allows masturbation. It's the marital debt people, but
I'm reading it right now. It looks like more of a marital debt.
Yeah, but some non-Catholics have read that to be implicitly allowing masturbation within marriage to some degree. Okay. All right. How are we doing? We got a couple minutes yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So it says that Clement of Alexandria was kind of one of the only people really in the early church fathers to talk about masturbation. So he says, and this is
it's near and dear to his heart back in the year 150.
I guess so. Yep.
All right.
Seed should not be sown on rocky ground or scattered everywhere, for it is. I don't know, what were they doing back then? I don't know. For it is the primary substance of generation and contains embedded in itself the principle of nature. It is undeniably godless then to dishonor principles of nature by wasting them. They used to think there was a finite supply. On unnatural resting places. In fact, he says, do not touch anyone except your wedded wife. I mean, that's pretty good advice.
That makes sense.
This is to share in God's own work of creation, and in such a work, the seed ought not to be wasted nor scattered thoughtlessly, nor sown in a way it cannot grow.
Okay. Sure.
But he also says to indulge in intercourse without intending children is to outrage nature.
Ooh, NFP.
Yeah, I don't think he would allow an NFP, whom he John will love that. Whom he should take, whom we should take as our instructor. The attempt to procreate children in marriage, but the promiscuous scattering of seed contrary to law and to reason definitely is not. And then, so the Wikipedia says, apart from Clement, the fathers of the church were practically silent on the question of masturbation from 60 up to 200 AD. Okay.
Wow. So that's like 150 years of.
I suppose they were
scrupulosity.
They were probably busy trying to not get their heads chopped off. That this wasn't high on the list.
Do you really think that it wasn't an issue for those guys? I mean, Peter was married.
Yeah. I don't. I'm gonna refrain from the comment that just rolled into my head. Okay. So this is continuing on the Wikipedia section. John Noonan, which actually I've been reading his book, talks about the Gnostics. So the Gnostics was kind of it was kind of like the body is bad and thought procreation was bad. And, like they were not in favor of bringing more children into the world. Augustine, I think, was a former Gnostic, or at least was battling the Gnostics. But because they didn't want to procreate, they used masturbation and coitus interruptus and other things in their rites and ceremonies of the devil.
Oh, that's a strong phrase.
Yeah. As I was telling someone the other day, history is written by the victors, right?
It's true.
And it says, with the rise of monasticism in the 4th and 5th centuries, Christian writers began to focus on monastic discipline, treating masturbation as a serious moral problem. So I think that is something that, we should keep in mind, is that a lot of this stuff, because we have a celibate clergy, or at least, for a long time have had it, the question of how they should conduct themselves has been, an internal, probably dealt with, and some of these rules and concepts have possibly come out of that, and then let's say been applied, expanded more broadly to
that. Is interesting that it's really an issue with guys living alone.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just and it talks about Augustine, Isidore of Seville, who were again, he talks about masturbation as effeminate. Gregory the Great, he relies heavily on Leviticus. I think he kind of says those ritual impurity laws should still apply. The Wikipedia says the Roman Catholic Church's official condemnation of masturbation, again, it points to that letter of Pope Leo the IX in 1054.
1054.
Yeah.
Going back in time.
Yeah. And then it says, after the turn of the first millennium, more theologians began to condemn masturbation in an increasingly strident manner. Okay. So, okay. Getting near the end here. I wanted to talk a little bit just to kind of wrap things up here. So the fundamental option. So Charles Curran, I don't know if he was a priest. He was a Catholic theologian in the I don't know if he was in the 60s. In 1968, he had the idea that the fundamental he viewed the fundamental option as a way to make sense of the fact that the Catholic tradition has long held that masturbation is an objectively serious misuse of human sexuality, even though statistical evidence suggests that the overwhelming majority of human persons, including those whose behavior otherwise suggests a generous and loving approach to life, engage in this behavior. So the fundamental option thing is talking about the fact that, you know, we say this is evil, but it's so common. Like it's so, you know, we say it's evil based on natural law, and yet it's such a common thing, as well as other sexual type things. And what do we do with that? So Curran suggested that for various reasons, the assertion that masturbation involved objectively grave matter is not convincing. In this regard, his argument is about the objective character of the action and not the nature of the moral person. Now, Curran was officially banned to teach Catholic theology by the prefect of the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith, Ratzinger. So, not endorsing Curran, just pointing out, since there was earlier discussion about the fundamental option, that's what he said, and he's been thoroughly condemned or whatever. Okay. There was also a commission done, maybe similar to the one for before Humana Vitae, in 1972, that kind of said most theologians have come to the conclusion that masturbation should not be judged as an objective moral evil, but assessed within the life context of the person involved. That also was condemned by this Sacred Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith in 1979.
Charles Curran is still alive.
Maybe we should get him on.
He's 90, so he doesn't have much time left.
Yeah, we better get hopping.
Yep.
You know, and there's, you know, you think about John Paul II in Theology of the Body talked about masturbation in a little different context, kind of depart more from modern phenomenology as opposed to the more of the traditional scholastic views. And so, now we're done. I have miscellaneous, the Song of Songs 5.5. That's one of the sections where some have said that section is indicative of masturbation.
Yeah, I mean, it sure looks like it. I'll read it. I arose to open to my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, and my fingers with drops of myrrh on the hands of the bolt.
Okay.
What do you do with that?
I don't know.
It sure sounds like it to me.
Saint Hildegard, actually, I think we talked about Saint Hildegard a few episodes ago, who said, you know, sex during pregnancy was murder, basically. She had some pretty interesting ideas about it. She said men's semen is poisonous and the source of evil until it's worn by the woman's body during intercourse. So you can see how that might lend itself to not having real good feelings about this.
I'll say that it was written by a woman.
A celibate woman, I guess.
A celibate woman at that.
Yeah. So, wow, we finished like right on time.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my slides. If anybody wants those slides, leave a comment, get on our email list. But I wanted to do kind of a really in-depth dive into masturbation and kind of how we got to where we are now. And then we'll probably do some follow-up episodes, maybe commenting a little bit more so on some of this stuff. So
yeah, that was interesting.
Okay.
Well, it goes back to 1054. That was a big crossroads.
Yeah, I guess so. We have to go.
Have the schism in the church at that time.
Add that to the time machine stops along the way. Okay. All right.
Well,
thank you, everyone who listened to that. Thank you, Wikipedia. Thank you, Jonah.
You bet.
And until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.